So what's up?
Is this how we start a podcast, with what's up?
Yes.
I was about to ask you who starts this. Whose podcast is this? Is it yours or mine, or who's running this?
I don't know.
We're having a conversation here.
Yeah, most likely. We can do it both ways.
Sure. Yeah, who's interviewing who?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're finding out about one another here.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting the stories down.
Mm-hmm. So I think that this is, let's say it's a Combat Ready podcast episode number 8.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here with Louis, whose second name is very hard to pronounce.
Zezeran.
Very Australian.
Yeah, super Australian. It's like Hungarian, Romanian, that was whatever, like Western size when they came to Australia.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about your Australian roots. What's that up? And maybe even start from what you do in Estonia and how we are related. So
sure, there's a good 2 questions in there. Which one? What am I doing in Estonia, or what am
Let's start with Estonia.
Okay, what am I doing in Estonia? So I came to Estonia, I don't know. Like the first time I ever came to Estonia was 2006, not even 16.
Mm-hmm.
I bought things with the Kron. I had an account at Hansa Bank. It's OG stuff at least. And I was just this backpacker guy. I was hanging out with 2 friends of mine. We decided to travel Europe. We bought a car in Sweden, and we didn't because in Australia you could just buy a car. And we didn't know there were things like green bits of paper that you needed that were important, insurance, shit like this. So we bought this car in Sweden, didn't bother to wait for the new green bit of paper to come. And we got to the ferry in Stockholm and they said, "Where's the green bit of paper?" And we went, "Don't have one." And they went, "All right. Well, the Estonians might have a problem." And we got to the other side and did good old Estonian style. No one checked. So we just drove this car in. We had a great time. And we hung out in Tallinn. It was very nice. 2006, kind of earlier in the year. Went to Pärnu. Okay, there was still ice around, not much happening. And then when my friends like, hey, there's this university town called Tartu. Let's go to Tartu. And we're like, all right. And we just happened to roll into Tartu in the middle of student days. 2006 OG stuff, right? There was a beer tent in the middle of the town hall square. They still the stacking of the crates. You could pay whatever, like 5 crowns and smash a car up or something. Money going to charity, like all real good stuff. Like the real activities were. We went into the beer hall tent. We just sat down, we had drinking, and these people come over and they're like, hey, do you want to go into the blind date competition? We're like, what? They're like, yeah, we take your photo, it goes up on a screen, it rolls, and you get a blind date to go to the club tonight. Do you want that? We went, yeah, I think we do. Yes, I think we would like to be assigned dates upon entry to this town. Excellent. It was Johnny Depp Club around the corner. And it wasn't like a big thing. We all just sort of went as a group and had fun.
Bankrupt some long time ago.
Yeah, right. It's been like every other venue in Estonia, it's been like 5 things since then. And so we did that, and that through those connections sort of just met a lot of Estonian people. And I guess we were fortunate that everyone was drunk and happy at student days, so we were able to make that connection. Also, the other thing that kept bringing me back to Estonia, I needed a laptop. I went to Audi laptops, because that's where everybody back in the day got laptop in Estonia, from Audi. And I went there and I said, I need a laptop. And he's like, here's the one. And then I said, oh yeah, because I'm a traveler, I don't have the internet, I'll need a copy of Windows. And the dude looked at me like, I think maybe we have a disk around here or something. He was like, what, you're not going to pirate it? I was like, yes, this is what I'm down for. So, and then the laptop broke, and it was like, one of the things that kept me back is I broke the laptop about 3 months later, and it was cheaper to fly back to Estonia and get Audi to fix it for free than to DHL it back here or to get some local guy to fix it. So all these things kept bringing me back here. And I lived in Sweden for a while because I used to work in IT. And I'd been living in Sweden, didn't like it very much, but I was working a really regular job, and I started to do comedy in Stockholm because I was really bored, and it's a way to make friends. And I started to do comedy, and because I had an experience running shows in Sydney, within like 5 gigs, I was already running an open mic night or a night in Stockholm. And we did that for about 3 months, and that's one of the first defining experience of me, that I started with this weird old expat guy. And if you find like some weird old dude from a foreign country who's been hanging around for too long and doesn't seem to have like a proper job, it's weird, right? There's less of them in Estonia anymore, but those like OG ones that have been here since the 90s, I'm very fucking skeptical of you. Unless you've like made something of yourself, you got a proper family by now. What?
Yeah.
Like move on to Kazakhstan if that's your thing. I don't know. So anyway, I started this comedy show with this guy, and he basically screwed me over for the show. It turns out he was really shifty, and at the end of the show, he didn't want to pay the comedians, and they'll come to me and they're like, "Hey, do we get the money?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're supposed to get it from him." And they're like, "Oh no, he disappeared." And he would do this stuff, and he would do things like come up to me after the show and said, "We had complaints about your hosting." I'm like, "What? What do you know? I'm not the best, right? I'm pretty new." And I'm like, "Where are those people?" He's like, "Oh, they've left now." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he started to run workshops to support women in comedy. And I'm like, okay, good cause, but creepy that this old Irish dude is doing this. And I started to understand that like I was getting pushed out of this scenario. And my point of this story is that by that thing, like I'd moved to the other side of the world, started comedy, started my own comedy show. It was such a big thing. I'd experienced all this anxiety. And then this dude screwed me out of it. And it was that experience which laid the groundwork that I knew what I didn't want Comedy Estonia to be. That I understood that this guy screwed me out of things, and he was weird about money, and he's weird about chicks and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, I understood by that. So it was easy to say, these are the values I want for Comedy Estonia to compare to that. All right, we're not going to be weird about money. We're going to be inclusive. We're going to, all sorts of stuff, right? And my relationship in Sweden didn't work. Then I went to where all the Swedish rejects go. I moved to Finland because Comedy Estonia didn't exist yet. So what was I going to do comedy? But because I'd already had a connection to Estonia, this American guy emailed me. He's like, "Hey, do you want to do some comedy?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been having the same idea too." He was living here in Tartu. So he's like, "Yeah, we've got Vilde lined up." And then I found a venue, Drink Bar in Old Town Forest, and we put on 3 nights. And look, we expected nobody in comedy for the first Comedy Estonia show. We expected nobody to turn up into Vilde. There'd be like 20 people. First night, room filled up. Second night, room filled up. I'm like, okay, we must be onto something since then. And then the next night at Drink Bar, we're standing on a coffee table. Everyone's standing, like it's not even seats, like it's this sort of real rebel underground vibe. And that's where the first ever shows came from. And then I'd still been living in Finland, and then after a while I needed a new place to live, and I'm like, fuck Finland, this is boring and expensive. And I needed a place to live, came to Estonia. I went to the real estate agent and I said, "I need a place to live." They said, "Okay, do you have a visa?" I said, "Nah." She said, "Do you have money?" I went, "Yeah, I got some money." She went, "All right, welcome, sir." So I was like, "This is my place. This is where it was still a place. Like you could still just rent a place, not like these days, right?" That was the birth of Comedy Estonia. I was standing on coffee tables.
So when you got here, like straight away you got your apartment, everything seemed to be right at the right place, or you were doubting things?
No, I don't think so by then. I'd always sort of felt like I wanted to come back here. I'd lived like, what do they call them? Digital nomads, they call them that. Before they had that title in 2006 and 2007. And I'd lived here for a bit already because I'd already burned through the work visa. That's why I needed to finish work visa. I kind of just got the idea, like, this is a place where I can make something happen. Sweden felt like a bit boring and like very good. In Sweden, like everybody sort of thinks the same way, which is very good for our education, very good for our healthcare, very nice standard of living, but a bit dull. And I think to me back then, particularly because I was sort of this naive Australian kid, Estonia still felt like a bit of a Wild West. I think I looked over the border at Russia and went, nah, fuck that. That's too, no, I'm not going there. This is not, I don't think I could set up to, but this is still a place where it still felt exciting to me. It still felt like an adventure. And like little things, I went to Hansabank and said, I need a bank account. They went, okay. And what's your address? And I gave them the address of the hostel. And it worked. And I was like, great. This is the country of scams like this. This is the place where I can live. Not anymore. You know, no, things have changed. I'm happy that things have changed.
Gone a long way from that.
Right. So I was sort of happy I could still maneuver in my Australian way around the place. But yeah, I think I was happy. Yeah. I kind of knew this is the place I wanted to stay for a little while.
So how did we meet up? So it was like 13 years later? Or?
It was, yeah. Fast forward 13 years. I've been running Comedy Estonia all that time. And I guess the small amount of backstory to this is about 5 years or so. Comedy Estonia has been growing over the time, and I've mostly always been the CEO, except for the last years. And there's that time where any new business owner, like it starts to get hard, really hard. I don't have business training. I've just got my intuition, and I was really drowning in the Comedy Estonia work, how to lead us, how to lead these crazy people, how to grow the business, how to all that. And then that's where I heard about this Jocko guy on Rogan's podcast. And I listened to this and I went, okay, this sounds pretty interesting. And it was true what we say, that the examples from war were much easier for me to understand. And the examples that were given, because they weren't said with all this business fluff, I've never heard Jocko use the word synergy. I've never, all this sort of blah, blah, blah sort of things. It felt really real and very definite. And I understood these words. So then you start consuming the podcast, you read the books, you do everything you can. And then I've got this team to directly implement these ideas on. I think that was enhanced also through pandemic, because I had nothing to do but study. Well, we have a huge challenge through pandemic. We're a live events company and we can't do live events. What the hell are we going to do? So a lot of time to sit and think, a lot of time to read through the books and really think, how can I apply this to me? And then also just before that or after that, I forget, I stepped down as CEO, employed someone else as CEO, and thought really hard about how I want to arrange the company, how the COO is going to be. And that's when I looked at things like the intent. And when I understood when a entrenched startup founder who's been doing it for a long time steps back, they have to take a conscious effort to actually step back. And people are still going to want to come to that because they're used to going through that person. And that if I'm putting somebody in the job of CEO, I need to let them be CEO. And I need to let everything go through them, even though that is off-putting for me, and also off-putting because I feel like, oh, this person, what am I doing? I'm just sitting around and scratching my bum now, and they're doing the work, which is why I'm paying them. But so it helped me to understand, okay, what's the intent, the ideas of giving people guardrails. Okay, go and screw up a little bit. Don't screw up too much. Letting them make their own decisions. That when the principles of extreme ownership talk about giving someone the guardrails of failure, letting them fail a bit, but not too much. That helped me calm down as well. Like, okay, they will not make the same decision as you. They will not do exactly everything that you would have done. That's why you're employing them. And hearing that from him helped me through that.
So if you started initially to implement it, like, how did it go? Like, you were like, did you try some techniques? Like, okay, it actually works. How did you figure out that?
Little bit by little bit, I think. Just little bit. You could start with the easy ones, prioritize and execute. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Find the most important ones. And you'll find that in most business books, right? That's, not an uncommon one. I think when it really came together for me was implementing decentralized command and understanding this idea. And that's why it's the fourth law that we talk about. Wait, what are the four laws? Wait.
Cover, move, simple,
Cover, move,
protect,
simple, right. So because it's the fourth law that builds upon all of the other laws. Decentralized command, that I want these people out making decisions, taking responsibility, and not always having to look towards me. And I was I'm 8 years in at this stage, so I'm also pretty frazzled by running and leading. That's why I'm coming to these philosophies, because I'm so frazzled that I'm like, there has to be a better way. that decentralized command as an idea appealed to me because I'm like, yeah, I'm worn out. I need these people to be making these decisions. I can't always be in the middle of it. I can't always be. If I want comedy in Estonia to be bigger than me, larger than me or my group, I have to eventually. Like, will my ego be so big that I'm going to run Comedy Estonia. I'm going to make all those decisions. I'm going to do everything. Well, okay, one day I'm going to not want to do it, or I'm going to fall off the perch, or something's going to happen to me. What happens then? I think there's an even, like, to say, you could say, oh, my ego is touching me in the moment, to say like, no, I've got to do it. I've got to make the decision. You might even argue that my ego is even larger because, well, my ego played the long game and said, if I step back now and I try to implement decentralized command and I'm letting my CEO take work, I'm letting the COO take charge, we're gonna meet, I'm going to give them the guidance, but I'm going to let them do it. I'm going to let them make financial decisions. I'm going to let them screw up a little bit. That will produce an organization that will endure. It will produce a legacy. If I hold on to this, like holding on to sand, it's going to fall through my fingertips. So if anything, when I framed it like that to my ego loved it even more, because now I don't run Comedy Estonia. I am the godfather of comedy in this country. And I would rather be a legend than be the guy in the middle of everything, forcing all the decisions every day.
So how do you feel, or how do you reckon, did someone feel that you started implementing something different now?
I think in Comedy Estonia, we haven't had two main groups. We've got the admin team, who are direct employees, who work in an office and do that stuff. And then there's the comedians. And the comedians are not employees. They want to do comedy. They are there. We're all trying to work together as a team for that common goal of pushing forward comedy in Estonia so they can have careers. So that's their intent and the reason they would be there. And managing those two groups is very different thing in an organization. So I think my admin office staff, yes, I gave it to them. I'm like, watch this clip. Here's a Jocko thing. Listen to this podcast. Here's a book. The comedians, as artists, you need to be much more indirect with them. It was already the group that we have with Comedy Estonia, and we've changed a lot over the years, but it's already a minor miracle what we've done to combine comedians together and to get them to look in one direction. If you're a comedian, you're hanging out here with this microphone, you're an individual by nature. That's why you stand on stage with just a microphone talking to people. You're maybe a bit egotistical and you're individualistic. So even, I sort of tried to have very realistic understandings of what these comedians should be. Are you on board? Are you going in the right direction? Then I'm happy. And that's a different relationship I have than to an employee. And it did help that for many years, and in my heart, I'm still a comedian. You can't manage comedians unless you've been a comedian. You have to have had that mindset to know, and when they whinge about something, to know like, actually, yeah, I do kind of understand.
You understand what they talk about.
Why they're whinging about it. Yeah. So comedians, very indirect, but still little things like, I remember a young comedian who came to us and he wasn't quite on board with the plan, let's say, and his name was Mikael Meima. And now Mikael is one of the most famous comedians in the country, doing his tour again. And, he's a cool dude. But he's pretty laid back. If you know his work, he's pretty chill. You don't see Mikael jumping up and down with excitement and things. He's that very chill guy. And trying to say, like, hey, what's your inspiration? Come early. Can you do the setup and all this? And then the way that I remember getting through to Mikael was I gave him responsibility for a show. We have a show called Up Late where it's like an improv show where what happens is topics get flashed on the screen and the stand-up has to make up the stuff in the moment. It's as close as stand-up comedians get to improv. But someone's got to come up with all that stuff. So Mikael got that responsibility. And yeah, straight away, after giving him responsibility for his own show, you could see his attitude change. and you see he understood it. So I'm like, oh, right, giving responsibility. I think that one happened even before Jocko. I think that one I stumbled across. And so some things I could put 2 and 2 later, like, that's
well, I
why
guess
that's working.
there has to be something you kind of agree on top, like in terms of like, okay, before I read the book, I kind of have something which, okay, I agree on this part.
Yeah.
Okay, now he's talking about some other things which I think make sense. Okay, let's try them out. But you have the initial like foundation. Something has been going in the right direction where you kind of feel, okay, it makes sense just because I now understand it as well.
I think so. A bit more of this, yeah. And that feeling like I understood that I want to give away. I want to give away responsibility, which is I understand as we're doing this work with Combat Ready, helping leaders in business and in the field. Not everybody wants to give away that, and so I actually have to do a bit more work to empathize and to think about their situation because I willingly wanted to give this away. I was so frazzled. I'm like, I'm gonna.
Yeah, you can't make it anymore.
I'm not gonna make it out. I don't love it. I don't love comedy. You asked me on the way here, do I still love comedy? The only way to do it is to detach.
Absolutely.
Is to be able to step back and have other people do those things because I was destroying my love of comedy by having to be in the middle of everything.
So did you kind of definitely failed in some things as well, even though using it going into two extremes? So can you give an example, or do you remember anything where you kind of fucked up or went into the wrong dichotomy side of the...
I think that right now... I joke around and say, right now, Louis Zezeran to Comedy Estonia, I'm more of the chill grandparent rather than the insane parent. And I think a lot of us can relate to this experience that our parents, the person that raised us, we're like, this was an insane person. They pushed me and they told me to do all these things and they were strict on me. But my children, they love my mother. They love my father. Because not only are they not the direct parent, but they've been through it once to understand, hey, it's okay. Hey, it's going to be all right. And I had that, I think. So we started Comedy Estonia. It was me and 2 other foreign guys, 1 Estonian guy, just the 4 of us, like the real OGs who were doing the first shows. And we are really on the outside. 3 foreigners, we're really on the outside. And people didn't quite understand what this stand-up was. Venues wouldn't even book us. Like a theater wouldn't book us. We're like, we'll give you money. Like, what's the thing? We just we'll pay the money. It's all right. Why won't you give us the date? And there was a theater community in Estonia, and I think they're quite introvert or inward looking. Fair enough. I get why they might be in a small country. And we had to fight for our place in that. We had to fight for stand-up to be respected. It's just a bunch of guys telling dick jokes. Well, yes, but no. And we had to people didn't know what it was. And now there's this people, okay, they know the stand-up comedy. They might have seen it, or they know it, or they know something of it. They've seen a TikTok at least. So but there's nobody knowing anything. So we really had to fight for our place. And I was very paranoid in the early days. Because also, so what happens when you're an artist manager? So I'm the artist, but I'm the artist manager as well. And I am devoting my time and my effort and my money and my risk into developing these comedians. So I'm putting effort into Sandro Rodriguez, I'm putting into Mikael Meimer, to Karl Larivarma. Now, then is like, when do I get my repayment from this? And what I was extremely paranoid about was that I would do all this effort to create a scene. I would set up venues. I would make a tour. I would get people to knowledge. And then others want to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, we do stand up, sure. And they would just come and go, hey, Sander, come to our event. And then all of a sudden he's taken all my comedians, just run a night because microphone stand-up's technically not that hard to do, and steamroller me. And I think that was also compounded because I'm a foreigner as well, so always feeling like the outsider. So I had to work very hard at creating that team spirit, but I also had to be extremely strict. And there were times where some comedians did then they tried to run their own show, and I immediately booted them out. But it was also agreed amongst our senior comedians as well, because we were all sticking together. We knew that if we fragmented, this wasn't. Yeah, we needed each other. We knew if you fragmented, this wasn't going to work. I didn't like the idea of other people coming along and now they're booking comedy shows and now they're taking advantage of this talent that I took the years and the money and the risk to develop. So finding that balance is very hard. And I was definitely a strict parent in the beginning. Because also I understood very, very early on, though, that contracts won't work. That I can't say to Sandroigas, you owe me a tour. You've got to go out there and do the next tour. The contract says, oh, fuck, that's just not going to work. So I was bad. Now, eventually we do have contracts, but they were a bit more like, look, we're doing one tour. Here's the money, blah, 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 and it's done. It's not like signing a 5-year deal with a record label. We never had stuff like that because they just weren't enforceable. And I'm not going to go and enforce that. So I was better off just to keep them happy and to make a group that they wanted to be a part of. Now, that does become tough still because, okay, eventually we do need some guidelines there, but it worked pretty much the most way. So, yeah, I was very intense, and we kicked a few people out of Comedy Estonia, which then went and formed our competition, which is very interesting. I don't think of it like this anymore, but I'll use very definite terms because maybe my paranoid brain did back then. We kicked some guys out of Comedy Estonia, and then they formed the group Faux Pas. And all of a sudden, we've got competition because we kicked them out. And I thought long and hard about that. I still think possibly it was the right thing to do, but I understood, it's no good being this hot-headed person who just, whatever, bugger off all this, because then they're just going to go and make another company that is you make your own competition. Now, I did have talks with them, and there's a longer story. I like to think I wasn't just so hot-headed as to instantly do that. And there was chances, and when I say I instantly threw them out, it wasn't quite like that. But nevertheless.
But competition should be good in general. Like if you have competition, it will drive you. It will make you think more further how to do it. It makes you more analyze. You have something to drives you. You have competition now.
Yes, but that paranoid part of my brain didn't understand that.
So in terms of where do you think your paranoia comes from, or at that moment, where does it where is it rooted to?
I think because I felt like I hadn't done anything big in my life before that. That this is not, and that's not even the truth. I've got a master's degree in computer science. I've held jobs, blah, blah, blah. But I think I started to dawn on me what this could be. And I didn't want to let it slip away. I've never done something so big and with big scope before, let's say. There was also other paranoias, like we're starting to bring international comedians to Estonia. So I'm learning this business, which is a whole other thing than managing the local guys, right? But I needed that for one thing. No one knew Mikael Meima and Sandroigas back in the day, but they did know Dylan Moran and they did know Jimmy Carr and Eddie Izzard. At first, it was us bringing the big names that some people like, oh, Comedy Estonia, then they come to that, and then they would come and see another show. Now it's a bit opposite. But we needed that to establish our credibility. We were the only ones bringing big comedians back then, and so that people like, oh, okay, these are not just some local dicks doing that. That's a technical comedian term, by the way, the local dicks. Wherever you go, there's always the local dicks, the local comedians. So I'm getting into that business, but that's all of a sudden I'm in international show business. We're doing deals with international agents and stuff like that. And I understood then at any moment, then there's a whole paranoia because you're like, that artist is with me. We promote Eddie Izzard here. We promote Daniel Sloss in this market. And you fiercely, and that's just a regular part of art or show business, right? We fiercely defend those. So sometimes people would get around me and they would manage to find some artist to bring to Estonia, a few people who wanted to jump up and try. But I then had to get out internationally and sew up all of the different management agents to be like, you want to work in Estonia? Come through me. Finland, you come through me. And I did that. I got out, built relationships, treated comedians well, managed to do that. But at any moment, also as a more of a show busy thing, I was convinced that at any moment, Live Nation, the biggest touring company in the world, was going to roll through and steamroller me. Which is a situation any company can. You're up and coming in a market. You're trying to build a thing. You're the startup, and the fear can come that the big international company is just going to open a department in your country or your city or whatever and blow you away, and your startup is gone. And I was, because Live Nation then bought BDG, the biggest promoters in Estonia. And I was always super concerned about it. And it never happened, which is very interesting.
I think like the more paranoid you are, the more you actually like realize them. Like if you're not paranoid at all,
sure,
like then you don't even fear that part. Now if you're thinking of that too much, too strongly, you will eventually bring it on yourself in some way or form. So it's interesting. I know a ton about paranoia. When you go to some surveillance course and you understand how the surveillance is done and how you kind of track people, stuff like that, then from that course, you think that everyone is tracking you. So you will become so paranoid. And your neighbors become Russians. Actually, they are just Ukrainian builders.
Yeah.
So there are so many of those examples. So paranoia, it's good. On a certain level, but it can fuck you up in long term for sure if you get it into too extreme.
Sure.
So what about talking about parents and you being an aggressive parent here? What was your childhood and how was life in Australia?
Life was usually quite fine. We had a very small family, and actually my parents were just in Estonia for the last 2 weeks. So they've been here before. And they like it here, so they were here hanging out for 2 weeks. We spent some time together. It was very nice. I'm an only child. My mother is an only child. We have a small
We can
family.
make a club.
Oh, really? You're an only child as well? Okay,
yeah.
There's some... Yeah, okay. There's always a bond.
I have brothers in the army.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, sure.
So I have a second family eventually.
Small family. And I would say, to be direct, emotionally disconnected. So I left home... The day of my last high school exam, I made tracks. I grew up in a small town. Like if you ever watched Home and Away, everyone in Estonia seems to have watched Home and Away at one stage. That's the easiest reference point I've got. It looks like Home and Away. And I left for Sydney, the big city. I wanted to have adventure. I wanted to have the bright lights. I wanted something interesting. So I was pretty happy I wanted to get away from a small town and small family. And then I kept going from Estonia, like to Australia. And then my friends like, let's travel. And then, even when my friends and I were traveling, we landed, middle Europe, Germany. Okay, that wasn't exciting enough. Living in Sweden, that wasn't exciting enough. It wasn't until I got to Estonia. Okay, I'm done.
So how do you stumble up with your friends? Have you had a lot of friends throughout your journey? So you traveled half of the world with your friends, but how did you stumble up on those friends? Where did you find them?
They're friends from school.
Okay.
They were my friends from school. And one of them now lives in, one went back to Australia. He's a doctor. The other one, also he met an American girl, lives in Atlanta, started a catering business, multimillionaire, and has lived the American dream right on, is doing it there with a couple of kids. So we both of us didn't go back to Australia.
So it's a good advice. Go away from your home and travel the world. And
absolutely. Yeah, go, man, go. And I mean, now when I think about it, I literally did come almost as far away from Australia as you possible. Could get. Yeah. Like I'm not going to the north of Finland. It doesn't have to be so bad. But yeah, like the furthest, most reasonable place that I could go.
So how you were at school? You were joking? You were like the kind of guy like you are now? No?
Nah, pretty nerdy for the most part, I think.
You liked IT? Stuff like that.
Yeah, IT stuff, because I did the computer science degree.
So how do you stumble up in the university then? You don't give me the vibe at all that like you're a straight A student, that you will become an IT guy. So how did you stumble up there? What was the decision behind it? Was it random, or you had a purpose?
I think I was just a different person then. That was just always what I was going to do. There was never anything idea. I was a little nerdy kid. I had my computer, liked playing computer games, liked hacking around with it and doing that stuff. There was just nothing else that I ever considered doing. Wasn't very good. I tried to have some small jobs when I was a kid. Wasn't very good. Worked at the McDonald's for like 3 shifts. Couldn't handle it. Like just wasn't for me, flipping burgers.
That's a awesome like transition from nerdy IT guy to a stand-up comedian, founder, and making jokes.
I think I wonder a lot about that because that got the IT degree, worked for a bunch of years. Well, actually, very quickly, my first boss, Rob Castaneda, who you remind me of greatly, actually, which is another reason maybe I saw many qualities with him, and he influenced me a lot, and with you as well. He very quickly worked out I was better at talking than coding. I don't mind coding. I really like it, right? But to sit down and do it 8 hours a day probably wasn't my bag. And we're starting to get into the idea that maybe young Louis didn't understand Louis very well. Okay, this is the journey of all of our lives. So there was nothing else that I thought of doing. It was just always IT. My parents kind of banged into me the idea you should go to university. Good immigrant parents they were. Go to university, get a good job. This is what you do. You know, be better than what the family was before. This sort of thing. And then it wasn't until I did that, tried to work for a few years, I was half-time a trainer, half-time working in an office, and it just wasn't working for me very well. Like I just couldn't stick it. And then but I was already doing training work. I'd already been sent to Saudi Arabia. I'd already been sent to some European countries to do this IT training. And it's something that we've talked about a lot already, that we can see how my experience in technical training is actually, there are very subtle differences to what we're doing now with Combat Ready. And we'll say in technical training, I am expected to be an expert. It is one big company is paying a lot of money to have some consultant from another big company come along, and you're supposed to be this know-it-all who knows everything. So as a technical trainer, you're supposed to come along and just unload all of this knowledge so that they know at least like, yeah, he knows a lot. They really sent an expert. That money, like, because the last thing as a technical trainer you want is some person who doesn't really know very much when you're training. Like, that will not fly with the technical guys you're supposed to be coding.
Like a specialist training. You want to be an expert on that.
You
field.
have to be this, and you have to show them. But I had been sent out literally 6 months out of university, less than. I'm being sent out as a trainer. I'm telling them stories of the work that I've done. It was my university projects. I would just not mention that part of it because I didn't have real world experience, but I could dance and talk enough to make it happen. So I was used to going these things and going, I know all this, blah, 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 getting it all out. And then as we discovered when I was doing my first course, that's not exactly how we're teaching these softer skills, let's say, with Combat Ready, that I need to be more interactive. If I don't, it's okay to not know something. Oh God, that is just this unfathomable idea as a technical trainer, that there is something that I might not know all about and that I could say to the class, what are your experiences? That took me a moment to sort of really jam that through my thick skull.
I can imagine that. It's always like in terms of like military training, like if you have like a 10-year background in like a regular forces, there is a certain way how you teach how to shoot the weapon, and you will get habits which are not good because they don't really know like how to shoot on that higher level. So your bullets are precisely where you put them. Right. So if you now take a total new recruit and start teaching them from the scratch where they don't have the wrong habits, it's much easier to get them to work on that very high level. Sure. But if you have guys with the wrong habits, it will take so much more effort, so much more training, so much more practice to get rid of the old bad habits that they have gained through 10 years of training in a wrong way. So I can see that if you have the same kind of approach, being a like training specialist, telling everything, every step, this is how you click here, click there, that's how it works, and then come to where it's more like open, broader discussion, stuff like that, then it could be totally like different.
Okay, but in your experience there, this example that you had, how does it help to understand it? So, okay, it's hard to get a 10-year guy out of it, but is it partly, okay, there's habit, there's muscle memory, okay, we've got to get rid of this. But is there a factor of, I'm 10 years, I know, what's up? You know, what was the harder factor there? Getting rid of muscle memory or getting rid of other?
Depends on the people. Like, I mean, the people who we chose, but they were open-minded that they were able to adapt and they were able to actually, they were there for a reason. So it was harder, but it wasn't it wasn't impossible. So if you're a thinking person and understanding that, hey, yes, this is different training, a little bit different, then you are able to adapt very fast. Okay. So I don't think that the ego part or me knowing that, no, because the other guy who is actually showing you, he actually shows you how to shoot. He demonstrates it. Hey, I understand this idea, so let's do a competition. You hold your weapon like that, and I will hold it with my one hand and doing it like this. Okay. And the results will kind of show that, okay, he knows what it's talking about, and then it's easier to adapt. So you do it pretty much by example. So it's easier to adapt in that sense, in my opinion.
Is that, I mean, tell us then about the mindset of someone going into special forces. Now you've all got huge egos, obviously. There's that balance of ego there, because of course you've all got big egos. That's just how it goes part and parcel with it. But there's some level of humility because you're going into this thing. Okay, I think I'm a great soldier, but wow, as you just said, some guy can just show me up straight away. Talk to us about the balance of having a huge ego, but then still being able to subordinate that ego.
Yeah, I think that the ego is the thing that drives you, and you have to be a crazy person in your head to even go through that horror of selection course, and then it doesn't go any easier after that anyways. But I think that you must be a person who is not willing to give up. Regardless of what happens. And that's the kind of core. Now, if you're able to listen, that's good. If you're not able to listen, then there are ways how to make you humble. Okay. And if you have a huge ego through that 2 weeks in hell, you will be humbled. And you can't kind of look, you can't find the wrong, you will find out who you are, and that's it. There's no dancing around it. So that's why I think the mindset initially is that you can't give up. If you give up, then you're not suited for this job. Then the other traits, or what's the word, parameters that we are looking for in a person is that are they a team player? Okay. If you have too big of an ego and you are only thinking about yourself, then you are not good, because turning you or humbling you for you to connect the dots that it's not about you, it's about the team, it will take so much time. And then being able to listen is one of the biggest one. Like, you have to have the humility to listen, because the other guys who are there, they are choosing people into their team. So if you don't act, or if you don't know, then there's no way of hiding it. There's no cheating, because it's so cruel, and everything will come out. Now, what we don't see is that how will you eventually work as a team player, and how do you actually work in a real situation, because it's still training. It's still only 2 weeks. And so because people who even go through the selection, yes, it's tough, but afterwards I think that half of the people will still fall off, because they are not able to work out how to deal with the things at home. They don't know, they're drinking too much. There are some other issues that come along. But I think, the main thing is that you have to have an ego that drives you inwards to just make it. So you have to be ignorant in believing yourself. Okay. On a level that, I don't know. I don't think that any other job requires it like this.
Ignorant in believing yourself.
Yes, because the things that you kind of have to do are ridiculous, and they don't make any sense.
You have to believe that you can do it. Like,
yes,
that's
exactly.
a crazy thing, but I'm gonna do it. I don't know how, but.
And for example, like one of the long, marches that we had. I don't know how we were 9 kilometers in or something on a 6th day or something. And then there was a point where a medic told that, hey, Remo's pulse is 200 at the moment. We were just walking on a high pace, and he will, if we continue this for the next 5 minutes, he will go to sleep.
Okay. Yeah.
And then normal person most likely first of all would just stop, because it's very uncomfortable. But in my head, it was like, no, I will not say that I quit. I will go until I die. It doesn't matter. If I collapse, I will collapse. Let's see what happens. And then in 5 minutes, I was there, and next time I opened my eyes, there was a medic looking at me. And then my first kind of words were like, I'm not going to quit. I will walk which direction I have to move. And then they just took me away, and they like helped me to, they helped me with an IV. So they pretty much didn't want someone to die there.
Sure.
So, but it just, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from, but it has to come, you have to have something has to be wrong in your brain. To just go there and go as long as you can until you die. That's the mentality pretty much, which you have to have, which is ridiculous in a way.
Right. That ability to not overthink. And that's something we've come out in our work already, that, I mean, I've got these experiences and people expect something of me, but I'm a crazy overthinker internally, which might come with artistic things. I'm not entirely sure. And there's been several times where it's come out where I can see I've been humbled by this because I'm overthinking things. Our experiences trying to talk to people in the shopping center, where you would think in our How to Human course, where part of that course is at the end of the day, we need to go and do a series of exercises where we talk to just random people. You walk up, you have to get stuff out of them. Either you've got to, look, there's a whole bunch of exercises. I don't give them away, but you need to ask random people off the street for things. And you would look at me and think like, well, Mr. Talkative, you can go and talk to anyone. No. Give me a stage and a spotlight, sure. But just regular, genuine human interaction, very, very hard. And what I saw in that time was the company that we were working with and the executives who, on one hand, you could see that, okay, they had big egos because that got them there. That's who they were. And you could see some negative qualities of them. But what I saw with them is that when they were in the shopping mall, they would just go and do it. There was no overthinking.
Yep.
And that was one of their greatest qualities. I don't think I saw that in the classroom. I just sort of saw people who couldn't wait to make a wisecrack to make themselves look, good. And maybe that was the test. When you finally see someone doing something, you realize all of a sudden they've built half a business in 2 hours and talked to this person and that person and got all this collaboration. And I'm just sitting back going, I can't do. So you're right. Until you're in there in that moment, that ability to not overthink, that ability to just go for it.
And I think what's also one part is that we want to know how do you act when things go wrong. And if you freeze, I mean, you're not suited for that job as well. So obviously you can train and get more comfortable. But if you don't know how to act faster and not overthink, because it's better to just move than just stay on put. And if things go wrong, you want to gain the momentum back on your side. So you have a little bit of control and you can actually start building on that first movement. Doesn't matter which direction you go, at least you get moving. So I think there are so many interesting things that person has to have. And what's the funniest part is that they don't know. You don't have to know how to shoot. You don't know how to swim. You don't have to know any of the skills because that's something which is teachable. But what is not so much teachable, what's inside you. You can most likely put yourself in uncomfortable situations and build some resistance and get there eventually, but it will take so much time. And I think that's something which kind of has opened eyes in some of our customers as well. Okay, what kind of answers do we ask in our interview? Okay, are we looking for the qualities in a person? Are we thinking long term? Or we are thinking short term that yes, you're a dickhead, but you have really good skills in that IT thing. Sure. So let's take you on board because we need it right now. But rather than, thinking long term, you have a really genuine understanding of how to act when you fail. You are a team player. You have shown that you don't give up. So, and you are willing to learn. You're willing to improve. So if I have that kind of guy, let's spend a year, half a year, and let's see how you can do it. And you can be much greater and you can have much more impact for your team than a guy who is a dickhead.
Right, the rockstar coder is the example in the IT world. They're super technical, they can do many, many things, but they're isolated, don't want to work with the team. They're a bit unpleasant to that sort of stereotypical IT guy that's a bit, arrogant or a bit rude or doesn't have great social skills. I was reflecting on how these ideas apply in show business, because show business is also a industry about egos. That's, again, why you're there in the first place. You need to have some crazy disbelief in yourself that you can sing, dance, make a joke, play the instrument, whatever it is. Beyond all reasonable, I can be a star, and you have to believe that you're going to be one in a million. So a similar mindset there. And of course, entertainment is full of egos. That's also part of it. So my job as a talent manager is to manage people with big egos. What I found is that I don't mind a big ego. Like, and if I'm working one-on-one with someone who's very talented, they've got a career and they're very talented, and they can be demanding, but I have to feel that they still respect me. I don't mind them saying, I need this and I need that, and maybe they do set a too high standard, or maybe they are a little bit too picky, but I can manage that. But I have to know that they have an underlying respect for me. And I'm talking about talent manager to artist talent relationship. That it can't just all be this diva, or whatever the male version is. Thing, dickhead. Now, maybe they are to everybody else. I don't give a fuck if they are to everybody else. But to me, they have to be. Because the relationship between talent manager and talent, there has to be respect there. That the artist can't just be like, yeah, whatever, you're this whatever, just doing whatever for me. Now, you want to hope that they treat everybody like that. So like all things, we're watching how they treat the small people, how they treat the regular people. Are they a dickhead to the guy putting up the lights? And that we can tell the difference. You can be demanding. I can tell that maybe they're not having a good day and they're a little bit tight. And then that might be my job as talent manager to be like, you stay there. I'll go do the light guy. Don't worry about it. Because I understand. Because as well as you get further, closer and closer to the show, it's more and more about them. We are, all of us, 100, 500, 1,000 people here for that person. So I will actually indulge your ego a bit more. But it has to be later on. You have to have this moment where you show that respect to me. It has to be a two-way street. You have to be teachable still.
Yeah.
And I have parted ways with artists with Comedy Estonia, not because they're off doing their own thing, because they wouldn't listen to me anymore. That I think you're going to go, you want to do these shows? I don't think they're a good idea for you at your level. And the artist then might say, well, nobody believes in me. I need to go and, make some big thing. And I'm like, no, I've been doing this for a long time. I just don't think your skill set is there right now. I think you could, we've had it before. An artist thinks that they want to go do their own solo show. They're ready for their own hour. And I'm like, I just don't think you're there. I just don't think that's it. But their ego got ahead of them, and balancing that, because I don't think it will help them in the end. It won't. So I have parted ways because I felt like I sat down with them. Like, I don't think, okay, I appreciate you got the goal. You want to do the solo show. Love it. I think you should do like 30 minutes and 30 minutes, or you're going to work up to that. I'm going to create your plan so you work up to that over the next, 12 months. And they don't want to hear 12 months. They want to hear 1 month. They want to hear it straight away.
That's what they look.
Shortcuts, yeah. And there's that time when I felt I couldn't influence them anymore. Their ego thought that I was holding them back. Which
in I don't know if the retrospect is the right word, means that you just failed to mentor them.
Sure.
You were not able to build a relationship to influence them.
Sure, to get through to them.
Yeah.
Wow, at one stage, they just have such a massive ego.
Exactly.
But yeah, sure.
But yeah, I was not able to massage your ego. I wasn't able to break through it. So it was so tough. It was so big. I tried every angle.
And I couldn't do it. Right?
And I couldn't do it.
And then I would also then look and say, well, if I bring it back to business, there's not enough earning potential in you for me to keep putting in that effort.
Yeah, and all the time, like if you're putting like 80% of your resources to one person, then there's another team who they are suffering.
Right.
So you have to move on.
And yeah, right. There's everyone else on the Comedy Estonia team going, why does that person get a solo show? We all know they're dog shit. Why are they getting? So I will, a little bit give them opportunities. Okay, yes, the rusty wheel does get the oil, so to say. But after a while, the rest of the team goes, we all know that person doesn't deserve a solo show yet. Why are they getting a solo show?
But it's a great, like if they go their own way, it's a good, if their ego is there and they are able to fucking do it, it's good.
Sure, right on. Yep.
And if they're not, they will get humbled. So they will learn through that. It will be a difficult lesson to learn. Nobody gets killed though, which is good. But it's either way. It's kind of, it's not a loss. I mean, it's a win-win. Eventually.
Is. And again, I think this was part of the time where I was going, it's okay to let go of people. And at first I didn't, because with the Comedy Estonia, coming back to that idea, I was controlling everything for a long time. We weren't as big as we were now, so I could control everything. And I wanted to control everything to stop. Well, it was both my ego, both that, but also we wanted to present stand-up in the correct way. Stand-up is, like you've discovered with me, much more fragile than it first seems. People think stand-up is just, we're going to get up and tell some jokes. And stand-up's really a fragile art form. We need the lights, the sound, the people lined up in the correct row. No coffee machine going off in the background. No people talking. And any of those don't happen, and the experience is shit. So we were really specific about the room and the style and everything we need, and we didn't want, as well, someone coming along trying some bad stand-up and then giving everyone a bad impression of stand-up. Now, I don't care what bad shows are out there. Now, is that time has gone on that, well, one side is that we're established enough that people understand what Comedy Estonia is. It has a good reputation.
What comedy is in general like.
What it is in general. So now probably people have enough good idea about what is good to understand when it's bad. That if they see a bad show, it's not all stand-up is bad. It's just that show isn't good.
And I think that you were maybe kind of like lucky. You were stumbling on the right things at the right time. Like micromanaging is like having control in the beginning is good. Right. But if you continue doing it for a lifetime, it will make a mess. So then transitioning to the decentralized command is like a perfect way where you have to come from the micromanager and become that other person. You're just giving the lessons, you're teaching, you're showing the methodology, and then you will start pulling yourself away and away and away so they can actually thrive.
What do you think about I want your perspective on this idea. This is the greatest challenge that I had with Comedy Estonia over the years. And it leads into what is probably my biggest regret. So at the start, we're all just guys and some girls doing it, having fun, making shows. It's very rock and roll. We're having a good time. But then there's more shows. Then I've got to hire somebody. Then some money's coming in. Now it's a business. Now I'm employing people. I'm an employer. I want to run things efficiently. So I want to grow this business. Also, when I was saying that, I was very paranoid, and I said only work with Comedy Estonia. Don't work with some other people. I took that very seriously. So I took that seriously to say, I'm saying to you, young stand-up comedian, only perform in Comedy Estonia shows. So I took that seriously to say, well, I need to provide you with every opportunity that you can. It's not fair of me to say you only perform with my company if I'm not giving you every opportunity. Why the fuck would you stay with me if I'm not giving you that, if I would lock you into something? So that also drove me to want to do more shows, to want to make more things, to want to make a whole infrastructure for these comedians, because I respected that they only wanted to perform under my brand. Fine. But what starts happening is there's Louis the artist and there's Louis the businessman, or Louis the leader, let's even say. And it started to get harder and harder to do both of those. it was definitely very hard to be the one who was organizing the comedy show. I'm the guy making the Facebook event, selling the tickets. I drive us to Riga, pick up the comedians. We'd set the chairs. Okay, everyone else is there helping too, sure, but that. And then I'll go host the show. Mm-hmm. To be the artist and the leader
at the same time
became harder and harder. And it became clear that, well, the business needed the attention. The business always needed the attention. Any business leader knows that you've always got to any startup requires a lot of your time. Now, to be an artist is actually inside of you a very fragile, a very gentle thing. An artist needs time to think. They are that stereotype of the lazy artist that doesn't do anything. Oh, why do you get 500 euros for doing a performance? Because the last 3 weeks I've been sitting here thinking about how to do this, right? The artist is very fragile and needs care and love and space. An artist can't be scheduled into a day. Not really. You can at an advanced level, maybe, but look, I'm not saying these are impossible things. That's not it, but I'm talking very broadly, and particularly as I'm a young guy or younger in this, trying to build them up. So the business was always taking over. And that is why less and less, I think I enjoyed performing less and less, because it was so, every show I'd go to was my show. I wasn't a random artist rolling into a show just, hey, I'm here for the mic, going to do my little performance and focus on my shit. No, even if I've got a good crew there, I'm still, still my show. And even as leader, you always look back and go like, are those lights? I might not do anything right, but you're always going, oh, are those lights all right? Oh, okay, you sound good? No, okay. And again, it's not like I don't have to micromanage to still be aware that those things are happening. And then the business obviously needed work as it grew. So it became more and more of the businessman and less of the artist, because I couldn't give it time. And because I was that business guy, it was hard to switch. And that's here it is, an hour in. The reason why I don't do comedy, because I fell out of it from that side. I still love performing. I still love being on the stage. I still love my hosting or some other way. But that particular thing of writing jokes and stand-up, that was the difficulty there. I don't know, is there some parallel for that in other leadership forms, or maybe in the military, or what do you think when you hear that story?
Well, what I initially thought that I think that the most successful, comedians, in some way or form, they also will be very good at doing business. Like Joe Rogan, for example.
Sure.
He is disciplined. And if you put two of those things together, then you get a superstar. Like if you take Michael Jordan, he had the talent, obviously, but he also had a work ethic, and he was able to drive on that to the direction where he wanted. So I think the most successful people have both of those things. Discipline equals freedom, pretty much. Yeah. And if you're fighting against time to be creative, then you have to manage your shit very good way. If you're not good at it, then hire someone. So you have to be able to think that you are not able to do it alone, so you need some crew. Or if you have the really good qualities, then you are able to actually be good at both. So I think that there is room for both, but you just have to outsource the things that doesn't move the needle in the right direction. Like if you're who can you be? Leonardo DiCaprio. Obviously he has picked up along the way how to make money, but the way that got him good was just discipline, training, performing, sucking, learning, moving on. And then if you're talented, you obviously gather around you people, but you have to have a little bit. You have to be able to detach and see what actually works, what doesn't. You have to be really good at learning and adjusting. And I think that whoever you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you will change as a person. Sure. So I wouldn't just stay stuck in what was and what was now. So you have to be really self-aware. What is your strong points? What are you capable of? And it all boils down to discipline. If you need more time to be an artist, you have to be disciplined in other things. If you want, I think Joe Rogan is a perfect example. He has a crew around him who is not maybe as disciplined as him, but he has given the knowledge and the know-how, and they're supporting each other. So you don't have to be so disciplined because you have a good group of friends, you have a good team around you, and who actually supports you. And he's known very well for like supporting everyone around him. Like he doesn't want to be the only one comedian, and he wants everyone else to work out themselves as well. But eventually, like a lot of people, you attract or you influence them with your behavior. And like what they had, Sober October thing ongoing.
Okay, yeah.
Like the guys who were part of that, they were not disciplined.
Yeah.
Like they liked drinking, they liked doing stupid things, but he was able to put those teams to work towards that. So through that small details, like I think that he at some point even quit on trying to like solve other people's problems. Like he initially wanted to, okay, I know how it works. I will help you. I will mentor you. Like he wanted to do a lot of things, but the person didn't want to do anything.
Right.
So if the person doesn't want to change, then it's a game over. And he kind of stopped doing that. And but I think the most successful people who actually will get somewhere, they have to know both. They just have to be able to learn. They have to put the same skills, what made them a really good artist. They have to put the same mentality, because if you got a good artist, it was discipline, practice, stuff like that. Now, if you take the same principles which made you good on stand-up, now apply them in whatever field. And if you don't think on the first day that you should be a great businessman, and you're able to learn, and adapt the same mentality, you will get there.
Sure. I think some of the things that, because I was trying to reflect now on my experiences, and sure, it all comes down to, this is my first time doing it. And when I was like saying, the paranoia or not being completely stable in myself, I certainly wasn't extremely mentally stable back then. I was enjoying the rock and roll lifestyle and things like that. When I see artists bigger, I think there is one other difference that sets those artists apart from what we have here in Estonia: money. And we, in this market in Estonia, we just don't have a big enough market cap to support the team. So Comedy Estonia team, I was always a fan of having people on board, more people to do more jobs. That's what I wanted. But we couldn't afford it. Given the market cap, there is 1 million people who will buy a ticket to an Estonian language show in this country. Just not a large enough market to sell enough tickets to support that. Well, I had my best 5 persons, including me, just not enough income to be able to do that. There is maybe an artist with an individual manager, some smaller agencies, but so I think I wasn't, okay, 2 things. I'm not trying to say like that was the excuse, because I wasn't able to let go. So there was a certain amount of not being able to let go. But there's also a certain amount of not being able to pay and support that. I think that those...
Did you recognize it at the time?
Yeah, I think I've always known that. That's always... that philosophy has always been at the core of Comedy Estonia, because we understood the Estonian market is not a sprint. It's a very long race. And that if we go slow and steady, if we, like anyone in Estonia, become famous in the next 10 minutes by getting on the front page of some yellow paper, doing something stupid, and you're in the news cycle for the next 5 weeks, and then you're done after that. The Eurovision song, and then we've never heard of you again. It's to keep going from that. And to not do too much cheap stuff, because then all of a sudden you could be on the Reality Island show, and sure, you're going to get all these offers from real cheap TV stuff, because that's often how they're doing it. And we didn't want to do that. I understood that looking at the artists who were very popular in the 90s and into the 2000s, if you do something that Estonian people love, they will support you for a long time. We will go to the Tanalpada concert forever and, to the very end. Now, fair enough, he was there, he did a very intense thing. And so I've always told that to the guys, like, you need to work hard now, do a good job now, and people will always come to your show. You don't need to blow up on some TV3 Reality Island thing or something to get famous. Just do slow and steady, consistent stuff. Because now, if we were in a larger market, time to go big because that market, the ceiling is so low here that it's no use taking a rocket straight to the top, because then where do you go?
But now imagine if you have a bigger market and you still go slow, then you will even last more longer. It's just the shortcut.
Sure. Okay. Yep.
I mean,
so you got to find that balance. Absolutely. We got to have it's a very good analogy that you spoke of, because we have thought of for a long time with comedy in Estonia that how hard do we press the accelerator? That was another thing we were paranoid of it becoming like a bubble, overhyping. That, okay, it's very popular, whatever, it's 2016 and we're just getting super popular and we could be on every TV show, if I'm probably not, but we could be everywhere, and then people get sick of you. So we were by being able to control everything, we were able to have our foot on just enough on the accelerator, not too much, and then we back off, we go away for a few months, and then we come back, and so we were able to control it. And right, in a larger market, sure, you got to put the accelerator down a little bit more because the road's much longer. So we're coming back to that has always been built into Comedy Estonia. We're a business, but we understood there was never going to be mega bucks here in this country. That's just how it is. Yes, Koitoma drives a yellow Porsche, but okay, great. There's, a few. There's room for a few. I'm not trying to say it's not. No doubt Tanapada leads a nice life.
I mean,
right?
he has learned what I was thinking, like you shouldn't forget, or you should be still you.
Sure.
And you should, even if you go and do business, you still bring what you were good at, and you are able to get something out from that. But if you now just change and become something who you're actually not, then I don't see how it works. But because he is super successful in other things that he does as well, which again in my head at least proves the point, which was also in the Book of Five Rings. The Musashi, a fucking warrior.
Oh, okay.
With a sword fighter or whoever. Like he had 40 one-on-one combats for fucking life, and he won all of them. And then obviously he wrote a book or whatever they wrote back in the day on a paper. And what he's saying is that if you get good at something, now if you are able to take the understanding of how you get there and implement it in any other things, you will become there as well. Sure. Really good at. So you have to like it, you have to love it, you have to understand why it's, because our mind changes, life changes, you get kids, you get whatever family, now you are different. You're not a crazy 20-year-old anymore, which worked there. You only needed one beer and that's good. But now you need money, you need other things in life that you can actually support it. But if you were successful in something, you got there by hard work. Yes, you got talent, but now you can actually take it and put it in anything else.
That's what I think about with Combat Ready, and why. So your original question back about an hour and a half ago was how did I meet you guys? And it was at the startup day earlier this year. So I had been, Comedy Estonia has undergone a lot of changes, and I could talk more about that later, but I won't blah, blah, blah too much. We underwent a lot of different changes, all for the better, but a lot of them reacting to the idea that we hit the ceiling and our company wasn't going to grow forever, just how it is in the marketplace. So we made some readjustments. And I would say that I understood that I did my bit I have made my contribution to growing comedy in Estonia. I still love working the open mics. I still love working with all my comedians. This is good. But I was looking for the next mission. What's my next thing? And I'm very lost. And I remember the time before I found comedy and how adrift at sea I felt. I had my IT degree. I'm living in Sweden or something. I've got enough money, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just bouncing around. And until I found comedy, and then that clicked in and I went, yes. And so I understood, okay, I'm waiting for that moment again. God, it's been 11 years since I've been there, and this is very disconcerting. I didn't know what to do, and I know the darkest before the light or whatever. And then, you and Sass were going to perform on the stage. I did a little Google, and I went, oh, shit, yep. I already knew straight away. I'm like, oh, these guys are teaching extreme ownership in Estonia. I'm here. I got to do it. Because I had been thinking, I wanted to teach this stuff. I wanted to do this. I tried very meagerly on my own, but realized I'm not doing it without a team. So I hadn't got very far because I understood on my own I'm not going to be I'm going to be a solo leadership consultant. Yeah. Okay, good. Yes. That just doesn't even work as an idea. And then I saw you guys and I was like, right on. And I understood like straight away when we were doing, you guys did your talk and then I did the Q&A with you. And I was like, this is my job interview. I was like, I have a time with these two guys on the stage. I'm going to show them what I know. A technical trainer. I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you all the words so you know I know what's going on. And so yeah, straight away, I was like, I got to work with these guys. And that was it. Yeah. After that, I understood, okay, there's room on the team. I approached you.
You actually were like, well, like when you approached us, like we saw you year before. Like on the stage, we were like, oh, funny guy, doing a really good job, performing really well. And now he wants to ask us. We're like, okay, of course, let's try. We were like, okay, this guy knows much more than us, and we can learn a lot of things from him. And as we have built up in our team, pretty much that like, okay, you want to do something, okay, come on board and let's see what we can do. We have always had that approach because you never know what's come out from whoever, and we have that kind of mentality. Like we want to give an opportunity if you're able to show these characteristics. What I was speaking about in the Special Forces. There's no stop. Like, come on board, let's do it. We have a cause which is a huge one. Whoever is able to help, let's go.
That's what I think about. I think about the way I view Combat Ready is what we did for comedy in Estonia, we're going to do for leadership in Estonia. So like what you're saying, once you've done it once, you know. So getting back to the idea, why was I so paranoid? Because I felt like I hadn't done anything with my life, anything good, like solid. Also because I have commitment issues and no small family. but I'll leave that for my therapist. All right. So now I've done it. I'm like, oh yeah, we can do it again. And it's still hard, I will say.
Of course.
Doesn't necessarily make it easier. You have more experience. I kind of know the path. I now know that it's going to take us another 10 years. To Comedy Estonia, 10 years. It's going to take Combat Ready 10 years to blow up, right? Or to whatever stage we're at.
Yep.
I have to, in this job, do more active sales. It's very hard. It's something I've avoided for a long time. Active sales is very disheartening to make all this and to put some information together to say, hey, here's some interesting stuff, and to have people just not be interested in it. Because that's sales, right? That's there's not even a sob story. That's just the game of sales, what you have to do every day. Put your stuff out there, and people just won't be interested in it. Or you won't get a reply or whatever. And I've got to approach that. I haven't quite been so used to that with Comedy Estonia. Okay, we've got, yes, you can be bad at a show, sure, but I kind of, over time, learned the tricks. I know how to get a crowd to like you. And also when it comes to direct sales with Comedy Estonia, over the years, we mostly have people coming to us. Our plan for sales was to just be more famous, and then people come to us. Yeah, we did some... Look, probably not enough, but we did some marketing. Hey, we've got a company, we'll come to the birthday party or the company party or something. But it was mostly people approaching us. We didn't really go out and do that. But I'm happy for this. This is a different thing. That's entertainment. This is actually your proper corporate training that we're delivering. So yes, I want to go out, meet with a customer, talk to them about what we do, form a relationship, help them over a longer period of time. I'm not just telling dick jokes at someone's birthday and then leaving, drinking the free beer and then leaving, right? Different sorts of engagements that we want to make. So I have to learn to be a different sort of salesperson. And yeah, it's hard, right on. But, and it has been up and down, disheartening, but okay, I've got to keep going and I can feel I pull back.
The thing that you can't forget is that it will be as difficult as it was with the Comedy Estonia. There is no other difference. It's the exact same thing. You just have an experience of knowing how hard it was. Now you should expect that this will be as hard as well.
Now I know. Before I was so stupid that I was I didn't know.
Sometimes it's good. Like with the kids, if you don't know how to, if you don't know that the fire burns you, you're not scared of it. Sure. Now you gain more knowledge, then you start being scared of because you're now thinking more. And it's the same. Like there are a few guys, like who have gone through selection twice. And the second time, you just know what's coming. And it sucks even more. The first time, like it depends on the person. Some people don't like when they don't know what's coming. They just do what's told. But now you will start over-analyzing. I know what's coming. I know what's coming, and it will be even worse. For some people, it's like, I know that if you tell me that you will be crawling for 7 hours in the night, you actually know it's going to be 2 hours. You know the tricks that if you have done a 20-mile run, and then on the last tile they say now you have to run back the same way.
You know it's coming.
So you know the tricks, the small things which are like hooked behind the people who will quit just because of that. It will make you easier, but that's the same thing with this. Like, you understand much better the traps that are in there, but you have to be open-minded. You can't be, I have done this, now I will do that, but you have to remember how you got there. Like, you can't forget how tough it was, and it will be the same toughness.
Yeah, it will be that same toughness again to redo something. And again, so we're talking here about something that took like a decade.
Yeah.
Not even just like 1 year or like these major things in the life. And I think also, I was used to being good. I think that's one thing that held me back when I was younger. I was used to being talented. That regular thing that if you're just talented at everything at the school, I worked, but I would say I still kind of worked, but not worked super, super hard. I wasn't just like whatever, but kind of used to just being good at things. And then there's this thing that you actually have to work at. It's a real slap in the face. And even a little bit now, I think I'm reapproaching that again. I'm used to being godfather of my domain, of being the guy in comedy, and I still am, right on. But here I'm in this new thing. And even when approaching people, I think I thought my name and my status would get me further than it has. I think it's reasonable. I don't want to sound so disheartened about it, but I'm used to just rolling in and going, hey, we love the shows, really good. But now, no problem. I'm still that guy when I approach them, but now it's a different sort of business arrangement, right? It's not quite the comedy thing. I'm talking about something else. So, yeah, to remember. Experience gives you that idea of remembering how hard it is and that it won't be... Yeah, because I mean, then I think back to the idea of, well, what else are you going to do, bro? Like, are you just going to stay as comedy guy forever and that's going to be it all? Or do you have to go through some hard stuff again? But it's hard. It's like being well off and then going back to not having money again. You've got to learn how to live frugally after you're used to having a very high income and a nice car. I don't know if this is completely relevant here, but for a long time as well with Comedy Estonia, there was no separation between Louis Zezeran and Comedy Estonia. People are like, hey, Louis, how you doing? I'm like, well, the business is doing all right, and we're doing some shows. And they're like, no, how are you doing? And because that paranoia I'm building up and the whole thing, it became my whole life. And part of, to bring it back to the thread earlier, what did decentralized command mean to me? It also meant separating Louis Zezeran from Comedy Estonia. That this thing would be more than me, would be different from me, and that I could tease my personality away from what Comedy Estonia is. I'm still a big influence in it, but it's not all about me anymore. And also, psychologically, I had to do that again. Otherwise, I was going to frazzle out. I was going to, or just end up as this weird dude who's like, oh, all I do is this. I've been doing it for 20 years. So it's healthy to start these new things.
Absolutely. I think you have to.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not getting humbled.
Yeah.
And you have to constantly humble yourself. And this is a way how to humble yourself because you're not the best guy anymore.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have to start from scratch. Yeah. So it's very difficult. And I think what's stopping a lot of people from doing that is that they fell in love in their success. Now they go to another place and now they're blind because they forget so easily what it actually took to be a really good guy in that area. So, and we forget a lot of things, like history, like have shown us that we hardly ever remember anything what was back then. Sure. And so, yeah, you have to be humble. And I think that by the end of the days, you have to do things that suck, and hopefully it didn't even suck even more. So that's the only way how you can actually give really good advice to other people. When your life sucked, you went through it, then it's interesting story. Then there's something to tell, there's something to teach. But if you forget about it, then I think that you're doomed.
Yeah, I'm enjoying in Combat Ready as well, not being the leader.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good perspective too. So again, it's sucking. I'm trying different things. It's nice to not be in charge of everything. Now, extreme ownership tells us that we should, be out. Absolutely. But that's not it, right? At the end of the day, I'm still not the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not at least in charge of, I don't know, HR or where all the money's coming from with any business. I've done that for a long time, been stressed out by where all the money's coming from. So this is actually maybe even a little journey back to being the artist, because I can just focus on being, sales and being a great instructor. That's all I got to focus on here. Now, of course, my brain wants to do all sorts of things, so I have to pull it back in. But it's nice to have this different perspective on this company as well, that I'm here to play my part.
And it's awesome. And we are able to utilize from that experience. Like, if we don't listen to what you have learned, we would be stupid. So there's so many good things when you transition, you have a really good experience in one field, then you go the other direction. So you're just gaining life experience, and that's what it's all about.
But why aren't I good at this right now? It's so frustrating. I want to be better at it right now. I should be doing things. I should be bringing in deals and doing bigger things and more stuff. And
there are no shortcuts.
Right. There's no shortcuts.
Nope.
Got to just keep going.
Just keep going.
Keep going.
Never give up.
Yeah.
Just go. Just be that stupid kid in your brain that don't give up. Just go there, because now you can see all the obstacles and all the possibilities how it can fail. So you know more, and sometimes it's a limitation.
I had been feeling a bit disheartened about the sales. And again, if I look back over the last few months, it's fine. I know it's fine. I get it. It's okay. But again, we feel that we want to be doing more. And I could feel that even I was hesitant. I still did it, but I was hesitant to turn up to our daily sales meetings, because I'm like, I haven't done anything. I haven't got any results today. I haven't got anything new and fancy to talk about. What are you doing today? Again, trying to reach out to some people. Again. And I feel like it's more fluff. Like, I'm talking to some people. Now I feel like I'm talking through my ass, right? And everyone can see right through me.
I think what it's all about, in my opinion, is that I know that people feel that way. And that's why at least I haven't told anyone, hey, why aren't you selling more? Sure. Or why haven't you done better? Because I already know that the people we've chosen, they already feel shitty about it anyways. Sure. So they have to get through it themselves, and maybe through that struggle, they will actually learn what they actually want to do.
Sure.
Or what they're actually good at.
That's tough as a leader, because you can still see it in your people, and you want to address it or help them or something, or at least say, hey, because sometimes I can help to be like, hey, man, like, hey, how you going with that or something.
But it's an investment. It's a long-term investment. That's what it is. And you have to help your people find their way. And that's what it's all about. In my opinion, it's like, I would be so happy if all of the team that we have will go split and they will be successful and happy in life. Sure. Not in Combat Ready. So that would be perfect. As long as I am happy with my purpose and doing what we do, and able to get closer every day, because on the day you die, you will forget about anything. It will be darkness. So you don't care. So if you're able to influence people and let them learn, if you provide them a training field, an FTX, which is a real business. And I think that Combat Ready is an FTX. It's a different scale. We train as we fight. We are supposed to mistakes. We are supposed to learn from each other's mistakes. And that's what it's all about. It's just a big FTX, what's going on. So you have to treat it as a game. It's a game.
It's a game. I think as well, part of the reason that I was feeling guilty every day is we have the sales meetings almost every day, and these are very good. I can feel the benefit of them. But I think we finally got to this, Preet and I finally got to this in Thursday's meeting, I think it was. I had not decided for myself exactly how much time I'm going to give to Combat Ready. I'm also coming to the idea that I do a lot of things, and that maybe if I did less things, I might do those things better. Now, okay, there's balance there. Could I just be more disciplined? Yes. I love the 4 or 5 main areas of my life, so I don't want to give them up either. So I'm not kind of saying that. But I think I hadn't made a deal with myself how much I want to give a Combat Ready. So I'm always like, I should be doing more. I should be doing more sales today. Where I'm starting to take some time to think, okay, exactly how much each week. We do an event or an FTX, that's a different thing. But how much office brain power am I going to give? Mm-hmm. One thing I've learned from being an artist is that, that idea of time, right? So any time that I give a larger block of time to something, I get a better result. Context switching in a day-to-day context, I'm working, email, call, very inefficient. Some days you got to do that. To me, that's usually a Monday because, okay, great. All the stuff's piled up. I got to get it resorted, blah, blah, blah. That's just how Monday is. But I like to make Tuesday a day where I'm doing just like one thing or whatever. I want to time block my day at least. So at least I pre-plan my day. And I say in this hour or these 2 hours, I'm just going to do Combat Ready calls, or I'm just going to, for the next 2 hours, I'm just focusing on my retro video games podcast and I'm going to think up some ideas because I can't think them up in 15 minutes, but it needs that time. So I think time blocking is very important day to day. But then I started to think, well, if I step back, I need to almost time block broadly the week. How much time am I going to give to Combat Ready? 2 days, 3 days of that time. And then to be more realistic, it's probably like, let's say I give Combat Ready 2 days. It's probably not going to be 2 blocks of 8 hours. So I need to sort of think, okay, is it going to be 2? And I'm thinking more of the idea I'm going to give 4 blocks of 4 hours. And I won't hit that. That won't be a pretty calendar in the week, but I need to work towards that goal. I need to be very clear that I am giving 2 to 2.5 days, let's say a week, 5 blocks of 4 hours is what I'm going to give. And if I've done that, I don't have to feel guilty. And I can say, hey, this is not my scheduled day today. I won't be at the sales meeting. I need to be more clear with my own expectations of myself so I don't feel guilty when I'm not doing something.
So the first sales that you have to do is to yourself.
Ooh, there we go. That's nice.
Before you start selling anything, you have to sell it to yourself. So if you are able to sell to yourself, then it's much easier to do it.
Right.
So you have to find your why, it's very difficult for anyone to sell you your why. Like, I want to be here. I want to do X, Y, Z. That's what I want to do. Now, if I tell you what I think that you should do, then it's my plan.
Sure.
And it's not your plan. So if I'm scheduling my time in a specific way in certain blocks, whatever, and now I tell you that it's very efficient, but the way how I got here, I tried 700 different systems, and now I got it. And now I feel that this works in some way or form. Now, if you are not willing to test and play out and work towards that, then I can give you the solution, but it's just a solution. And you will never adopt it because it's not your plan. It has to be your journey. Yes, I can ask you questions. I can open you up, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to give you direct feedback. I will just dance around. And that's been my method. And in my opinion, in long term, it will be good for both of us because I'm playing the strategic game. Sure. And you need to let people find themselves.
That's such a weird thing about human beings that we all need to find our own way.
Yeah.
And like there's the knowledge. Whatever you want to do, someone's already done it. Someone's already figured it out. But we all need to still figure it out from ourselves. And that is a very inefficient process. But that's just the nature of human beings.
What I like this SF example, which I give on some of the courses as well, is like the Delta guys, when they go to an operation, they were given a plan which kind of sucked. It was micromanaged. They were told everything what they have to do, and then they say like, okay, that's a good plan. You can go do it. It's yours. So they had balls to say that to that guy. But what they said after that is that we want to have a say in the way we die.
Okay.
So every person wants to have a say in their life. So if they are not able to, if it's someone else's plan, they don't have any say in that. But they want to have their own plan, and so you have to give or build the relationship or the culture so that they can actually find their own path, whatever it is.
Yeah. There's a million different plans out there and we have to find our own one, even though someone's already worked it out.
Exactly.
And
even with the Chaco stuff, like Echelon Front has fucking figured it out.
Yeah.
So we could just copy it. And initially when we kind of looked at their homepage, we saw that, this makes sense. Like, why there must be a reason why they have done it in that way. No, we know better. So we tried something else, and eventually, like a year later, we have the exact same thing what they have. But we had to do it, the journey. We had to learn it ourselves through our own mistakes.
Right.
It would be awesome if we were able to actually see and adapt to that, but we are not. We want to have our own path.
We've got to do it. Okay, so as human beings, it's just something in our chemical programming.
It seems so.
Yeah, it seems so, right? It would be so efficient to just say, yeah, that's the right thing to do. Just go and do it.
And it's so difficult to see the process because you understand how fucking difficult it is. Because there are ups and downs through the learning process, but the downs will teach you the most. So if everything is awesome and you give everything on a golden plate, what did you learn?
Right, you haven't learned
Nothing.
anything. We're so stubborn as human beings. We've got to learn through adversity.
Exactly.
It's a really inefficient process. I look back at, it's a human thing to look back at your life and go like, if I'd only had known that.
That's why I like the practical training. Like you are put in scenarios in simulated environments, which will give you a lesson you can utilize in a war. That's why it has to be practical. So you can actually learn from your mistakes. If I see that the other guys did a mistake, I didn't do it. Yeah. I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm never going to get target fixated. When you go to the exercise, first thing you do is you get target fixated and you will get killed in a training. So you can simulate and create the life-like environment where the lesson is more impactful because you live through it. And then it's much more hurtful to your ego, and that will leave the mark.
That's what leaves the mark. One thing that I've taken away from a lot of the teachings of Combat Ready, but particularly the FTXs, the examples and the scenarios that we get students to do are much simpler than I thought they would be. You would think, and I sort of, maybe I've got that detached outsider's perspective, so I'm always trying to explain this to our clients when I'm doing selling as well. Like, it's not like some crazy big operation. It's not planning getting Osama bin Laden that you need to plan. Because on paper, it doesn't sound very complicated. And at first, they might look and go like, that's what, just walk over there and like talk to a guy and then move. At first, our scenarios on paper almost don't sound like they're going to teach you that much. Okay, we grab these laser tag weapons, we talk to a guy, and then we walk to this next thing, we talk to some other guy. Doesn't sound, like very much. But it wasn't until I did them that I realized they're so precisely created to show the point that it doesn't have to be big and complicated. In fact, the point would get lost in a more complex scenario. What about when you were like, you say we were sort of reading from the playbook of Echelon Front, but how conscious were you of this from the beginning, that the scenarios need to be like super simple?
Well, we went to their training, and we saw that they were so simple, and we saw the mayhem that happens
just with simple.
So yeah, you could stop every scenario after 5 minutes and give a full debrief how to improve it. Right. So, but what you need to do is that you need to let other people fail as well. Otherwise, it will be a good lesson for free guys. But you want everyone to have their own experience, so that's why you have to do it. But I think that in general, like. We just think that behind every success or everything that is worthwhile, it has to be super complicated how to get there. But it doesn't. It has to be simple. So the simpler the thing, like in the jokes world or in the food world, less is more.
Sure.
And just have to have, you don't have to become a complicated story. It will be even worse. Because we anyway, as human, we just overcomplicate everything. When we start thinking too much. So I don't know how we stumbled upon that. We just saw the example, we were part of it, we felt it, and we saw that, let's try. And it worked out from the first training. We realized that this is the game changer.
How effective it is, like it just works.
And only in one day.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And now I was spent like a week with the guys in the forest, and it's even more effective. It's ridiculous how hefty, how effective is practical training when you have a mentor with you who is also living in the same shithole as you. Like you see that he kind of leads by example. He's together with you in the rain. He's doing the same. He's carrying the same rucksack. It sucks for you. It sucks for everyone. But then, in my opinion, it's much easier to be. It kind of gives you a higher ground if you're in leadership position, because you, at least with me, you don't think about yourself anymore. You're thinking straight away for your team, how you could support them, how you can help them in whatever way, and it is much bigger relief. And you have things to constantly worry about, and the things that you don't worry about is you. If you're the last guy in a team and you are just a regular kind of soldier, then you have only so many things to think about. It will become like a routine, and you will get bored, and then eventually you start hating it because there's not enough information. You don't never know where you are, how long we have to march, like all of those kind of things that come into your head. So I think that our brain doesn't like empty space.
Okay.
We just need to fill it all the time with good stuff, of course, because you can fill it with total load of shit and you can overanalyze things. So small, simple thoughts, and the more you have them in a row, the easier your life is, because you can actually make decision, feedback, new decision, feedback, new decision, and it will become much easier. You have this kind of interesting cycle in your head. You don't have to contemplate on how do we take over the world, or how do we eat this elephant in one bite. You can't. You have to do it bite by bite. And then, I mean, these kind of experiences are just game changer, and you don't need a lot of time.
What about this? So you were just out in the forest for like a week, leading a group of, was it reservists? Did I understand? Reservists. I want to get into this a little bit because you had a chance to implement these principles that we teach, and you said over a week, not just a day. So they're really these lessons are really being amplified over the week. So first of all, your role there. Are you, for this time in this week, would you say you were you the leader of the team, or would you say you were there more as an instructor?
I was intended to be a leader, but during that moment I saw that it will not, it's useless, because then they will just depend on me. So I rather spend time in helping them start thinking in the right direction. So if something happens with me, they will still able to operate. So I was thinking what's good for them, not what's easier for me. Obviously, it's easier if I tell everyone, you do this, you do that, then that's it. Sure. But in long term, it will not work out in their favor, because what they need is to start thinking that is needed in that environment, not precisely what to think, but how to think. And that's what I was like initially. What I was contemplating before I went in, like I thought, okay, what's my approach? How do I kind of initiate all of this? Because they were strangers. Nobody know anyone. They don't know me. Like it's like a 0 point. And then I thought that the best way to approach it, just you have to be super humble. Sure. That's it. And from there on, I just started doing our own exercise, the word game or the name game. I started with that. So I started like just starting to help each other and show that it's not so complicated. It's simple. It's not rocket science. You're much smarter in your way of life, what you do. And these guys were like, they had experience in life. So they were not like young kids who you need to teach everything. So they were adults. They were thinking it was just a matter of shifting and treating them as adults, not kids. And if you're humble, you don't come out as a like, I know everything. I will teach you how things are done. Sure. Nothing like that. And it fucking works.
So there's a great lesson there about how, and it's not quite what I want to get into, but it's a lesson for another day, which is how to lead people who are more experienced with you. And from the sounds of it, many people in the military have had that. You get promoted, and then all of a sudden you are an officer who is leading much more experienced people. And I think many people kind of had this in business as well. You get promoted, and now maybe who was your colleagues are now your subordinates. and humble is the way to do
I think that the easiest thing you should recognize that they have more experience than you, and you have to be humble so you're able to listen and learn from them. So you want to be able to learn from them because they actually know a lot of things, maybe not from this topic, but from other things. And if you're good at something, it's the same principles that they had to apply to get successful in other field. So we are not so much different. We just have different skill sets. We have different kind of small details, but the core is the same. Like, because every successful people out there, at least as far as I know, I've heard from Joe Rogan, one of the first things what I recognize that every one of them speaks the exact same thing. There is no difference what they're speaking of. They were all hardworking. They were humble. And that was the two main things which made them successful. And building relationships, obviously, all the time. And if you're doing those things, three things very good, you can get anywhere.
I was talking to the comedians last night about the idea of humbleness in artists, because it's often associated with an artist. They have an ego, the rock star or the big comedian or whoever. And my good friend Alexander Popov has just been at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's the biggest arts festival in the world, biggest stand-up festival in the world. And it's the perfect networking opportunity. So we were, in previous years, we ran an Estonian show that would run every day. And this year, you can just go and get introduced and be like, hey, yeah, I'll give you 5 minutes. And if you're not a dickhead and you do okay, someone else will give you 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden, you've hustled up 7 spots a day. You're doing 7 little shows a day because everyone's got a bit, and then you're a trustworthy person. So someone said, hey, I can't do my 11:30 show. Can you? Great. Yep. I'll be there I'll do your 15-minute spot at the 11:30 show. So it's this perfect opportunity of hustling, building relationships, and we're very good at that. Well, in an Estonian way, we're very good at that, because one thing Estonians are, inside of this country, we're all knives. But when we leave Estonia, there is some sort of camaraderie there to help one another. I have noticed, as my observation. And Estonia comedians have a good reputation. So that's interesting and international. And what I was talking with Popov about was that there are those artists who have an ego. And, that guy's a bit of a dickhead. That guy's a bit hard to work with. And what you're always doing, the bigger your ego is, the more your talent has to be to get you somewhere. So yeah, you can be a massive dickhead, but then, but you're hugely talented, so you still get somewhere.
Like Steve Jobs.
Well, Steve Jobs is the best business example of this.
Yeah.
Huge dickhead, but was so crazy talented. And I really believe that he gave the wrong example to young leaders, because everyone was like, I'm going to be Steve Jobs. He went in there and just told them what to do. And because he's 1 in a billion. Not just even 1 in a million, 1 in a billion.
Yeah.
That is the wrong example. You can do that if you are as talented as Steve Jobs. Are you? I don't think you are.
And even he fucked up. His ego got in a way. He got fired from his own company.
Right, from his own company. So the same thing with these artists. Right, yeah, okay, you're going to rise up on the skill of your ego. But actually, if you're just a bit more of a nice person, which doesn't really cost you anything, you will get opportunities. People like, that guy was so funny, but he was a nice guy to be around and he helped us set the chairs up or something. Yeah, come along. So don't let your ego, you're just fighting your ego. If you just be a nicer person, you will actually get more opportunities.
Yeah, it's like a dichotomy. Yeah. Like Axl Rose. His act was part of what he created, but he was so good at it, he found right people, but eventually they got split because of that ego. So you have to have an ego which drives you, but you have to keep it under control. If you're not able to subordinate your ego in right times, if you get too cocky, then you will be humbled.
Right.
So eventually you will get humbled anyways. We all will die.
When you're out in the forest, whereas I'm sort of getting to the leader and instructor thing, because when we do FTX, the way that it works, we've got our combat ready instructors and they teach something, and then you give the brief, and then we assign 3 leaders from the company. So the company or whoever, the group, and 3 leaders come out. And there's one sort of squad leader, and there are 2 leaders of the 2 different squads. So there's one main leader, let's say, and then 2 subordinate leaders. And you can see that you brief them I would say in that moment, like an instructor. And then you brief them like an instructor to the 3 leaders. And then it's the job of the 3 leaders to go and brief the team. This is very good. And then they go and execute a scenario. And as combat ready instructors, you're just walking amongst the field, observing, looking, writing notes as a like invisible observer style. So what role did you play in the forest? Were you invisible observer instructor in the middle of their shit, or were you like a leader leading the 2 other subordinate leaders?
So I tried to be as invisible as possible, and when shit hit the fan, I took it over.
Okay.
I helped them out in exactly the same way as it is on a field.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and if I saw that there is a need, I know that it would be good for the team, but I try to hold myself as much back as possible. But those moments when they applied, obviously they actually worked good, because if like there's like 100 events where I could, and now I do it twice or 3 times, it actually shows them that okay, he will help us when the shit hits the fan really hard. But over time, he lets us do mistakes, he lets us learn, So that's how I operated there.
Okay. And is that, okay, how many people was in your group, your squad?
Like 10.
10. Okay. So you're
10,
leading
12,
that.
yeah.
So what sort of structure for those 10 people and you was there? Was it already something that was just everyone was equal and then
eventually we pretty much figured out what like it wasn't in their heads. They didn't know what I was doing, but initially I wanted to understand that the team understands what's the strengths and the weaknesses of each team member. So I put everyone in a leadership position, as we do in F6. And then I could see who are doing good on some things, other people are not as good on some of the things, and then I let themselves form the team. So eventually they became a like sub, like they split in 2 or whatever they did. And so I pretty much helped them to come up with the plan, which was their plan.
Yeah.
So that's what, like, always, like, still indirectly, yeah, if they ask, I will ask, like, okay, what do you think? So you never get a straight answer. But if there was a time and I understood the urgency, and what it also gave me an opportunity is to be detached all the time. So I could see a bigger picture. I would actually be thinking, if I give the task to the subordinate leaders, I can then think of the other things. And when there is a time, I can actually see when things are going in the wrong direction, and I can then jump in and help out and then pull back again. So that's how it works.
That detachment, I think, can be hard it was hard for me, and I can still see I do it anyway, reflecting on this, that when you're detached, this is a valuable thing. You can see the bigger picture. You are able to look up and out and see what's happening and have more view of the battlefield, physically and metaphorically, than your guys who are in the trenches. But it can also feel like you're not doing much. What are you doing? You're standing around looking at everything.
But they have to feel. You have to create it. Like, you have to create the feeling that they know that you are looking for their back. You have to showcase them what's that role.
Sure. But in yourself even. Like, even in yourself, to just stand back. Like, if everything's working, and great, this is actually what we wanted.
That's the purpose. Yeah.
The purpose. But then as the leader, like, absolutely.
But the thing is that I'm always thinking the next steps.
Okay.
So I'm actually doing a lot of things. If I'm not doing, then everyone understands that, yeah, I'm just walking there, looking at the ground, doing nothing. But actually I was looking what's going on, later on giving feedback. So yeah, I mean, you can't get too attached. People will feel it. But I think we have to wrap it up today, because the dog is going crazy. And I need to go get to the kindergarten as well, so to get the kid. But it was awesome, I think.
This is cool, man. I think we're going to get more of this, like more topics.
Absolutely.
Like, if we have some topics to dig into.
Absolutely. I think it was awesome.
Nice, man. Thank you very much, brother.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.